This is the Numbers Game, and I am David Camioner. And you are?
Tim Blessing.
Are you sure about that?
I absolutely am at this moment.
Have you checked your ID?
I will check it a little
No,
bit.
very, very good. Very, very good. Because, you kind of a striking resemblance to a slightly older William Powell of the Thin Man series.
I don't think so, but
Yeah.
I'll go with that.
I saw Myrna Loy outside looking for somebody. Anyway, if you saw our first episode, you will notice that we are sans liquor and cigars because we're an august educational institution, which would frown upon that thing, especially if I'm involved. But today we have probably better production values, and hopefully it will be more interesting to you. So where do we start in our second installment, last one being about a month ago? Well, something reminds me of a book by one of my favorite authors, American authors, Tom Wolfe, called Back to Blood. The book is about the state of culture, a bit ago, 10, 20 years, in Latin Miami. And a police officer, a Cuban police officer in Miami, is trying to tell somebody from outside the community, about the culture, how people get along. And he says, one thing you got to remember is that here, everybody hates everybody. And that brings us to politics in America today. We are, in a kind of anti-James Monroe sense, in the era of bad feelings within the Republican Party, within the Democratic Party, within the independents. Nobody likes anybody anymore. This is not Eisenhower, where Lyndon Johnson and I could sit and make decisions based on the national interest. This is not even Reagan and Tip O'Neill, who, at least publicly, were very cordial. This is a bad, bad time. And one of the places this is so bad, which is, being a former old pro in Republican political vineyards, is in the Republican Party. Tim?
Well, one of the things I've noticed here is everybody assumes, I think quite rightly, that Trump's going to win the GOP nomination, regardless of what color suit he is wearing at that time. But the thing that I'm also noticing is that, I sent $3 to Nikki Haley so I could get all the mailings and all that stuff. And she really is increasing.
I sent her $25 because she looks better in a skirt than Trump.
We'll find that out, I think.
Oh, Trump is a Scots mother or something? Was that it?
Yeah. Trump's mother was from the Outer Hebrides.
Yeah, there you go. So perhaps relatives of his one-time war skirts, but beside the point.
So, the Republican Party, 35% will vote for Trump. 35% will vote for Trump because he's a Republican. Another one will vote for whoever another about 15% will vote for whoever the Republicans put up. And about 15% of the party so hates Trump or so disdains Trump that Haley is appealing to those. And she is being backed by considerable amounts of money.
You think it's only 15%?
I really think it's between 15 and 20%.
Okay, I would think it's a little, given the amount of, the percentages she's getting, I think it's a tad higher. I mean, I've seen people say it goes as high as a third. I'm not sure I'd go that far, but I think 25 could be legit.
Well, I think the bitter ender never Trumpers probably.
Yeah, that's
right
true.
Around 20%.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But you can't win, by the way, without that. Trump can't win without that slice. So when we get to the conventions, God knows what's going to happen. I mean, you remember Margaret Chase Smith, and I know we'll talk about this later on. 64, she was overwhelmed by Barry Goldwater in 64, but she refused to give up her delegates. And we may be in that kind of situation.
Yeah, as there is discord, as we see in the GOP, we've got the Freedom Caucus in the House versus Speaker Johnson, who is pretty conservative himself.
Yeah.
When you are basically calling Mike Johnson a squish, there's an issue in your party.
Yes.
Yeah, but they can hold up legislation and a lot more, as we've seen, on the ground level, and Trump is definitely going to be the nominee. I can't, unless by an act of God. An act of God, or, or as you mentioned, he changes suit color. But even that, my God, we could be looking at a Eugene Debs scenario.
That's right. There's nothing, there is absolutely nothing in the Constitution that would keep you from voting for a felon.
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing.
Yeah.
And in fact, even if they tried to do the insurrection thing, which looks to me to be doomed, you can still write him. And large numbers of Republicans would write him.
Oh, completely. And let's say, theoretically, as has been done before, Trump goes to jail. Well, he takes Carrie Lake with him, and they write a book. They could call it, My Struggle, and then afterwards he could get, elected again. So,
that's exactly
we've seen that scenario. So yeah, the GOP has their issues.
Yeah, the D's have some
My God.
problems.
For a political junkie like me and like you, and this is a wonderful year because it's a complete gamble, a complete crapshoot. The Republicans are over there, and the Dems. I mean, they have an incumbent president who has some issues, and I'm going to go out on a limb here and say I don't think he's going to be the nominee. I know too many Dems when I was a pro myself, and I have a lot of respect for their political acumen. I really do. Most of those guys are cutthroat killers. Professionally. Will keep their private lives out of this. So I just don't think they're going to let this guy be the nominee. When Axelrod and Carville's admitting stuff, Hillary Clinton is admitting stuff. What did Axelrod recently say? You can't unring the bell of that weird press conference. It's just, the blood is in the water. I mean, this is a Woodrow Wilson scenario. This is an FDR Yalta scenario. This is Jack Kennedy taking B12 and dope in the White House scenario. Maybe not, Kennedy was not in that league or something, not in the league with this guy. But yeah, I just don't. The guy is being led around like he's, Nurse Jill is lassoing him, hurting him. So I don't think he's going to be the nominee. But there are a lot of scenarios. Does he resign? We'll talk about this later. 25th Amendment. Is there a credible primary challenge from like a Gavin Newsom? Does he have such a meltdown somewhere that it comes to the point where he just really can't go on? I mean, there are just an amazing amount of things that could happen. And I just don't see him being the nominee. Of course, the bottom line is that if he is not, let's say he resigns. Okay, then we have Harris. But Harris has worse numbers than he does. So I think what they really want to do is have him win, and he could possibly beat Trump. It is possible, given Trump's negatives. He wins, he resigns very quickly because of health reasons, and the Dems have somebody that, for a lot of reasons, they would like in the presidency, Kamala Harris.
Okay, so right now Biden's 81, which everybody knows.
Yep.
And so he goes in and he has a mild stroke.
Mm-hmm.
So now what happens? I mean, pressure is, under any circumstance, pressure is going to build up on him. So you're making a bet that a man who is already obviously incapacitated in some ways, and where you've got a special counsel, a special prosecutor report that says he's a nice old guy who's with memory lapses. By the way, obviously the party, the Democrats, who live by the special prosecutor, just about died by the special prosecutor.
Yeah.
And so he gets in. How many? Let's not say he's president of the United States. Let's just say he's Joe down at the gas station. How many 81-year-olds make it to 86 without having serious trouble?
Mm-hmm.
So I think whether or not he's nominated at the convention, sooner or later, the Democrats and the country are going to have to face this problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's just, on both sides, but certainly when it comes to Biden, this is an issue that's not going to go away. You can't run the basement thing again. Trump or whoever is, Bobby Kennedy, who is ready to are going to bait this guy. It's not like in 2000 where Trump is, slitting 2020, when Trump is slitting his own throat.
Yeah.
No, I mean, Trump, is not a big fan, but he's not stupid. The man's not stupid.
And added to all of this is the fact that the independents you have at least one really capable independent out there.
Yep.
And then you have probably two more. You could have a third. And so,
Yeah, let's talk about the independents. I mean, with Manchin, was it yesterday, day before, getting out of the race?
Yeah.
So God knows what he's going to do. So now we have no labels without a head, but there are people. There's Lieberman out there, though he's a little old himself. There's Sinema. There's weirdly enough Angus King in Maine. He's still the Senate, isn't he?
Huntsman out in the
Huntsman. Yeah, there are people that could credibly take on that label, whether they would have the appeal of a Manchin, or let's say a Manchin-Hogan ticket. Hogan, of course, running for the Senate in Maryland, is really hard to say. But the real independent out there, I think, as you just kind of mentioned, and that who really benefits from the Manchin withdrawal is Bobby Kennedy. Which is a weird thing to say in 2024. But, Bobby Kennedy, on one hand, he's got that magic name to Dems on environmental stuff. He's just great on that. He's certainly an appealing guy, attractive movie star wife. On the other hand, they will never forgive him for COVID. Never.
Well, it's interesting that the same people who would be most enthusiastic about him on terms of the environment are least enthusiastic about him on COVID.
Exactly.
So how that's going to break, I just have no
Yeah,
idea.
me either. And of course on the Republicans, the angry, white working class vote, he plays beautifully into that on
Exactly.
COVID, on other issues. The white working class, as we saw in 2016 and in 2020, is really, deciding stuff. I mean, Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, a lot of that Trump took in 16, Biden took it in 20. And if Bobby Kennedy can go in there, who does he take from? As you just mentioned, he takes in one way equally from both sides. There's a charisma aspect to it. I mean, Trump has a kind of charisma for certain people. Biden has zip. And so Bobby Kennedy, even though he's got a kind of weird, gravelly voice, certainly, comes across well. I don't know if you saw not only an ad he did, I think it was an intro campaign ad, which wasn't bad, but the Super Bowl thing. Did you see that? 1960, Kennedy, 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 Kennedy. Yeah, wild. And in retro, he said he didn't know about it. Yeah, right, Bobby. But no, it really, really worked. So, and then, of course, we're not just looking at Bobby Kennedy. We have the outliers. We have Cornel West. We have Jill Stein. And, who knows? As Biden keeps, falling down on the job more and more, Kennedy rises up to 10, 15%. Now you take West. Maybe if there's an issue with Harrison, some blacks move to him. Now it's another 2 or 3%. Stein, 1 or 2%. So what are we talking, 15 or 20%?
Well, it depends on where those votes are. But if you take a look, even at New Jersey, where Cornel West could pull off a certain number of urban city blacks, you've got the fact that at least northern New Jersey is very progressive. They might vote for Bobby Kennedy. And now suddenly New Jersey is in play, and both parties have to spend money on New Jersey, which you didn't expect to send.
Yeah, my God, New Jersey is in play. Is New York in play in any of this?
I certainly think Long Island is in play.
Yeah. I mean, and where we sit, Pennsylvania. Bobby Kennedy will do
right outside Philadelphia.
Yeah, Bobby Kennedy will do well in Western Pennsylvania. Oh, very well, like Trump did in 16. That kind of numbers. Yeah, and then who knows? Out there, Jill Stein's out there again. West. We have an urban vote there. On the independents, we were talking about Sinema earlier. She's named being thrown around. She is a independent senator from Arizona. She also has a tough race out there. She might want to get out of, and she would play to a lot of suburban females. So the polarization, the fracture of the vote into an 1860 presidential election like it's just tremendous. I mean, and of course, there's one thing we've heard about, and one thing you and I talked about extensively, and we're not the only ones. The cloud, the sword of Damocles that hangs over all this is the 25th Amendment.
Right, and actually, I know everybody's talking about Biden and the 25th Amendment, and there's been all kinds of ads and editorials and what have you about that. But Trump's 77. So guess what? So what happens though? People who have not read the fourth clause of the fourth section of the 25th Amendment don't realize this. You cannot remove a president because ultimately it takes 2/3 of both houses to remove a president. So
Hold on, if a president says no?
If the president has every right to say no. So let's say you're my vice president. You take me out. The next instant, I can sign a thing saying that I'm president again. So I can take it back to you. And then it goes to Congress.
And that's a 2/3 vote.
And that's a 2/3 vote. And so Woodrow Wilson, Woodrow Wilson had a major stroke in October of 1919. And so Woodrow Wilson, who should never have been president, could barely function. As I say, could work 1 hour a day. He would have signed his name, and that's all it would have taken for him to continue to be president. So the 25th Amendment, that fourth section either needs to be done away with, or it needs to be seriously amended because it just doesn't work.
Yeah, and just the potential of this. I mean, if let's say, and again, I agree with you in so many ways. But if it's somehow, the Democrats see themselves going down to fall in November, enough people in the cabinet can get away with there. Let's say for some reason the math works out. Biden's gone, President Harrison, civil war in the Democratic Party.
Oh yeah, the Democratic Party will become completely unglued if they remove Biden.
Yep.
So they've got the worst of both worlds here.
They really do. They either have a guy that is really not there. Let's be perfectly frank. We not to be partisan about it. Just objectively look at the guy. Listen to the guy. He's not there.
Well, and there's an issue, being in politics, you don't always think of the humanities of the thing, but you realize that we're taking this guy who's 81 years of
Uh,
age, and he's being used as a front at this
yeah.
point.
Is this elder abuse?
Oh, it's kind of rhetoric that way.
I
doesn't
mean,
it?
you know, maybe there's a whistleblower somewhere we can talk to. But no, I mean, it's just at the point where that we're even talking about the 25th.
Yeah.
I mean, now granted, in 1944, no, excuse me, it was early 45 Yalta, no 25th yet, of course.
Yeah.
But they saw earlier that's where they put Truman on the ticket, got Henry Wallace out of there because think about what's going to happen there.
Well, I don't know that many people know this, but a year before Rialta, there was a meeting of of Franklin Roosevelt's doctors, and they said he's going to be dead within a year.
I didn't know that.
Yes, no,
Well,
there was.
Wow, look at him at Yalta, the poor man. I
Yeah.
mean, the bags under his eyes that he looked like a raccoon.
Yeah.
So, and of course, that's part of the reason that he gave Stalin whatever he wanted. I
Yeah.
mean,
And Stalin's the one who said, "Why would why would God choose to
yeah.
make a man suffer like this?"
Yep, exactly. Stalin said
That's
that.
Stalin.
Yeah, Joseph.
Stalin
Joseph
had no
yeah, what a
respect for
what
life.
yeah, what a warm and fuzzy guy who's just saying that kind of thing. But okay, so let's say, I mean, we've talked about a lot of scenarios here. The 25th. So, but let's say that doesn't happen. So we get to the conventions in the summer with Donald Trump and Joe Biden as the nominees. They've got the delegates. They've got the numbers. They have things set. However, there will still be let's call it 20% of diehard anti-Trump people at that convention.
Right.
Let's say the pros and somebody else at the Democratic convention realize that they, with somebody else, they got a shot. With a Newsom, they have a real shot.
Yeah.
With Biden, they probably don't have a shot. What happens?
Well, okay, if they come in, if Biden and Trump come into their conventions with enough votes, they can put their feet in cement and run the convention. What they can't do, and what may not happen, is they can't just run the convention where everybody goes, "Oh yes, sir," And so, if I'm reading the Haley literature correctly, she is really planning to hold on and ride it out, and be the since all the other ones have dropped out, she's the only candidate the Republicans have if Trump's not there.
That's right.
And that is wide open. That convention just explodes like a watermelon.
Exactly. Anybody ever see the 1964 movie The Best Man by Gore Vidal? An amazing political junkie movie. Ever haven't seen it, guys? See it. 1964. Gore Vidal, The Best Man. Henry Fonda, Cliff Robertson. Amazing movie. And it's in some ways this scenario. But I mean, the Haley people, and we, could get a very bad reception from the Trump people at the convention. Remember what happened to Bill? What happened to was it Bill Scranton in '64? Was it?
64, yeah.
And Abe Ribicoff in '68 in Chicago.
Yeah.
I mean, the Trump people are emotional people, and they are not, regardless of even if she endorses it, which she says she's going to do.
Fist fights have broken out on the floor of conventions all the time.
Yep.
Now we're talking about that not in the past 20 years, but fist fights break out on the floor. And in fact, if you remember the 1976 convention where Reagan was trying to overthrow Jerry Ford, the Reagan people were really aggressive, and the Ford people were just trying to hold them off, and they were trying to.
When it came down to the Mississippi delegation, yep, exactly.
Yeah.
And weirder things have happened. 1940, I think it was Philadelphia.
Wendell
Wendell Willkie,
Willkie.
Republican Party. Nobody knew what the heck was going on. Willkie stomps the floor. Boom, he's in. So weird things happen at conventions. So you have that in the Republican convention, at the Dem convention.
Yeah.
I mean, there's an Operation Valkyrie possible aspect of it. What do you think? What do you think could happen at the Dems?
Well, actually, I went back and read the Democratic National Committee rules for conventions, and it says in there very clearly that you are committed to vote on the first ballot for the person you're committed to vote for. Except there has an except in there. You cannot be forced to vote against your conscience.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so a lot of Democratic delegates, assuming that Biden continues this downward slope, we'll say, a lot of Democratic delegates could suddenly start consulting their conscience. In which case,
Conscience? Or something else. Yeah.
I know we're talking about the politicians.
Yeah, exactly.
Please excuse me, but they're going to find their conscience.
Send their other suit.
But just stop and think of what happens if Biden loses control of that convention, because now you've got California.
Oh my God.
You've got Michigan. you've got all these states with attractive governors.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that they have anybody strong in the Senate, but the Democrats, for once, actually have a strong bench. And so, I mean, for
Oh,
goodness
like it would be again a junkie's a dream to watch that
Yeah.
happening real time. I mean, my God, I mean, there could be a Sanders rump left over from 16.
Well, I would expect Sanders to be put in nomination at
Yeah.
the very least.
For sure. I mean, yeah, there's Whitmer, there's Newsom. I mean, there's people all over the place that would have, and there's a guy who people have been talking to very quietly about recently. Recently had I wouldn't say come from behind, but a convincing win in the Republican state of Kentucky.
Kentucky,
Andy Beshear. Is it Beshear? Am I pronouncing
Yeah.
that right? I think so. Yeah, beat Daniel Cameron, up and coming black Republican there, who I thought was going to take it, but he did not. Beshear
did not.
beat him as running to the right. Certainly is still a Dem, but certainly running as almost an old Dem.
Well, he's following the Manchin cinema trend.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that could prove very, very popular in some places. And he's the kind of guy who, on the 14th ballot, Democrats could
Something
look
very
for.
turns to.
Yeah. So, yeah, again, the best man scenario in 1964.
Now you're going to lose a squad if you do that.
Yep. Well, we're going to lose the
They-
squad, I think, unless you go with Kamala Harris, you're going to lose the squad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that far left progressive wing of the Democratic Party, that's jokers are wild out there. I don't
Yeah.
know what they're going to do.
Yeah.
But if you run a centrist well, for that matter, the governor of Colorado, whose name I have just forgotten.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Let's go to Parka.
Yeah, and so now you're talking about 2 or 3 centrist Democrats.
Mhm.
Whitmer can actually pose as a centrist
Yeah.
Democrat,
Yeah.
and so suddenly,
Mhm.
I don't think Newsom can pull that off.
No way.
But and the Republicans would love to have Newsom. So
Yes.
so
And let's talk about Colorado for a little. When we go to as the second show we've done here, we do a feature called the, shall we say, phrase of the day, and this one is the phrase, the concept of a sanctuary city. Now, Denver and Colorado, a place I lived for a little while, is perhaps a sanctuary state. Certainly has been very open to legal immigration. And what has happened to not only the city of Denver, but to Gerald Paulus, is that the governor of Colorado? Do I have that right? Yeah. Anyway, Denver is having second thoughts, as is New York, as is Boston, as is so many places around the country. And I'll tell you, the Dems. If you want to see the core, in my opinion, only in my opinion, of hypocrisy in ethos and deed of the Democratic Party, watch the deal on illegal immigration. The concept of sanctuary city. Oh, it's wonderful in theory, but in practice, when we do it at Martha's Vineyard, they grab their pearls, they go for their smelling salts, they wake up from the papers and go, "Not in my backyard." It's just amazing to watch everywhere all these wonderful people that criticize the Republicans as being so heartless, Abbott as being so horrible, now are pretty much saying in many ways the same thing Abbott has been saying for a while. And as abortion cuts in a lot of ways against Republicans, this, by even bigger number than abortion across the country, cuts against Dems.
Well, I mean, and it drags in something else too, and that is, and you and I have talked about this a number of times, is the fact that there is no one Hispanic vote. There are Hispanic/Latin votes, but many Hispanic/Latin voters who came here legally are very, very, very unhappy over the illegal immigrants. That will take them away from the Democratic Party.
Absolutely. And I can speak from personal experience. One is Latin myself, folks from South America. Two is somebody within the Republican Party for many, many years, dealt with the Hispanic vote. And as a good political consultant, I got hired to bring that on. And then I sat down, cashed a check, and said, guess what? There's no such thing. In America, people of Puerto Rican ancestry and heritage, who are Americans, and people of Mexican and South Central American heritage tend to vote down. Cubans, South Florida, of course, is a big example, and also South Americans tend to be more conservative, tend to be more political refugees than economic refugees, and tend to vote Republican. So there is not a monolithic Hispanic vote. When you see somebody talking about the Hispanic vote, Latin vote, you're talking to somebody that has no idea what they're talking about. The way I used to explain it to clients was, guess what? You think Latins are politically monolithic because they speak the same language? Well, Queen Elizabeth, the late Queen Elizabeth, spoke English. Bob Marley spoke English. They did not hang out together. So yeah, so that's exactly it. Immigration is something that is going to be around Dems next November, as it probably keeps getting worse.
Well, you're a Colombian, but you grew up in South Florida.
I did. A weird, strange story worthy of a telenovela. Grew up Cuban, found out I was adopted, and my blood is Colombian in my mid-20s. But for another day.
One other thing I think the Democrats need to think about is a subject to nullification.
Mm.
I mean, because sanctuary cities, by definition, nullify federal law, oftentimes nullify state and local laws. Well, who's the great proponent of nullification in America? It happens to be a fellow by the name of John C. Calhoun, who was the leading spokesperson for slavery.
He used to have a hall at Yale, didn't he? But didn't he had a hall at Yale, but not so much anymore.
Not so much anymore.
Yeah. So yeah. Not only on the basis Tim just mentioned, but on so many other bases. Illegal immigration, border control, call it what you like, is not an issue I see anywhere. And some Dems have been smart about it. The guy that just won in New York didn't he tack to the right on immigration?
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Well, the Democrat tacked very seriously to the right on immigration. And in fact, the present mayor of New York is finding out that although he tacked to the right on immigration, he didn't attack far enough. And he's going to, if he runs for re-election, he's going to have to do it again.
Yes,
he's going
he
to have
is.
to go further right.
Yeah. So where do the Republicans go on abortion? Where do the Dems go on immigration?
I don't think either party can get these stones out from around their neck. I
Yes.
just don't.
Yes. No, if people like you and I, pros, could just sit back with them one time and just say, look, you know what we're going to do? We're not going to talk about it. Okay?
We're going to avoid it.
Yeah, we're going to send out little dog whistles. We're going to send out really nice mailers. And we're going to let our 527s do workforce, and we're going to shut up. But of course, as we know, politicians, especially certain ones, have no idea how to shut up. And on that pearl of wisdom, this is David Camioner
And Tim Blessing.
for the Numbers Game. Thanks so much.